Where we left off is I was making these additional pieces. And you can see that I have them put on with magnets. What these parts are is that for my hilt, I definitely want to make sure this is transportable. Not only is the blade going to come off, it's going to screw on and screw off, that I have these little extras. And the Vampire D, the hilt of the blade of the sword is really huge. And he had these little fingers. So I went ahead and cut these out, and these are just solid foam. And I went ahead and I want to make a plug. So I took my rubber, my piping, and glued. I went ahead and used, of course, I got this great EVA foam rod from TNT Cosplay, which it was the same. It was a perfect diameter. I thought, this is perfect. I don't have to make this. I can just cut this. So I cut this. As you can see right here, I made a little bit of a plug right here, and then wrapped a piece of my piping around that, glued it in place. And then I, of course, cut in there and put my magnet. These are earth magnets. I get these guys at Harbor Freight. And the best holds a magnet to magnet. So I went ahead and did this. And I put a magnet here well. But to hide the seam, I put a ring. I put piping on this side and piping on the other. So it has a nice little flush fit. Like that, see? Therefore, when it goes in, snaps in, the little seam kind of holds the piping. And there it is. I got my right and my left. This has all been properly dialed in. I got the sizes done, everything's done. I'm now going to move on to doing the blade. What I'm using for the blade is a metal threaded rod. You guys can see right there, you can see the threads on it. Now normally, I would use aluminum rod. There's fiberglass rods you can get, they're good as well. But since this thing is so big, the handle's big, the sword blade's big, so I want to try to make sure they're separate elements. And I just went ahead and thought, I'm just going to use a threaded rod anyway, since it's already threaded. I went ahead and you get the nuts in here, so this all screws in, like so. As you can see what I've done, I went in with some blue paint, and I painted where it ends. I took a brush and just painted it. And the reason I did that, so I know where this is where it's maxed out. It's not going to screw any further than that. So I need to know where that's going to be, because when I go to put this foam on for my blade, the foam has to stop exactly at that point. I'm going to go maybe just a little bit over on it, so when the foam comes up there, it's nice and snug. So when I screw it in, it'll kind of squeeze together in theory. So now that I know that where it stops, I'm going to take this out. There we go. That is it. So this is technically done. We're going to put this aside over here. Here is my pattern for the blade. I went ahead, laid this out, traced it to the thickness that I wanted, and you can see what I did was, as you can see in my pattern, I placed it and I made slots in my pattern, so when I trace it, I know exactly where the compensation I'm going to do for my armature wire. And again, you want to do a little bit of a curve or cut into your foam when you're placing an armature, because if you do not do that, and you just want to try and squeeze it in there, it's going to show through the other side. It's going to make it look, so you want to keep the foam as flat as possible. Now that I have that plotted out, we're going to trace this onto, this is my TNT Cosplay foam. It's just slightly under a 1/4 inch thick. Now I have this, I'm going to pin. I have my chalk marker here. You can definitely run it with silver Sharpie, but I have my little chalk marker, and I like this guy a lot. So I'm going to just take this guy. I'm going to flip this guy over, do the other side. So on this tip, I'm going to go ahead and do a bevel cut. Now I'm doing this on the curve right here. And now for this part, I stopped, hold. Because I want to do this with a straight edge, because this long of a bevel cut and not messing it up is next to impossible. So I'm going to put a straight edge down on my chalk mark, so I have something metal to press against the blade. So when the blade's going down, I have tension on it. Hold on. There it is. Got my blade beveled. The whole plan is this guy's going to sandwich these guys together. Granted, there's going to definitely have to be some, I can tell you just by looking at it, there's going to be some serious cleanup. But you kind of see what's happening. I got the sword with the bevels. And granted, I'm probably going to go back in here and sand this all, make it a little bit more even, but I definitely have my bevel in where I want it. Now, the next step is to plot out the trench of where this guy's going to go. Now, I want to make sure this is centered because I'm going to do this on both sides. Make my straight edge. Now that I have these guys plotted out, we're going to go. I'm just going to do a slight little trench into them. I'm just going to definitely freehand it very carefully. And I have a small sanding drum. Going to do a barge cement. I'm going to brush a thin coat on both sides. While there's barge still in here, I'm going to place the armature on one side. You have to be very, again, very careful that I mark. This is where the ends, so I know exactly where to put this in. Drop the armature in. Now that this armature's in, I'm going to go ahead again and brush barge cement on top of this as well. To speed things up a little bit, I'm going to use a hair jar just to get the glue. Now we're going to apply these two halves together. The side that has the armature is your stable side. So that's going to lay, and what you're going to do is make sure that stays flat on the table. This being the table's flat. So I'm starting with the tip. Hold on, this part you guys can see it, make sure you can see this. And I curl this up like this, because you don't want this to stick ahead of time when you're not ready for it. So you're gonna kind of like apply it down like, it's kind of like a reverse banana peel. Got it, there you go. It's not bad, it's gonna definitely do some finessing, but if I was to do this again, I would just glue this together 90 and just grind it and sand it down. Of course, the medium, this is the coarse grit sanding sponge. These are great. Got this at Harbor Freight. It's got thumbs, and it'll apply the pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do this over the edge to even out my bevel. Now I have this done, I'm going to go in and do a medium pass on the sand here. I gave the sort of look over. I'm really happy with it. So what the next step is, I'm kind of went over the fine grit, and the next step is I'm going to heat seal this. Get my torch, I'm gonna fire it up. The trick with the torch is you're just gonna pass it quickly. You don't want to burn it. You just want to cook the surface. So, for example, you guys can watch me here. Watch this. And it kind of like, like you do when you do spray paint, when you're painting something with spray paint, it's literally the same thing, but you're painting with fire. I don't know if you guys can see it, but if you look underneath, see it's it's all sealed now. All the fuzzies and the foam stuff is gone. It's properly heat sealed. All right, now I've properly sanded it. I started with the rough, went from the medium to the fine, did all that, went ahead, did my final thing with the heat seal with the torch. This looks spectacular. I'm really happy with it. So, the next cool thing is let's go ahead and put this together. Take a look at it real quick. Bang, there it is, okay. Pow. The sword is, this is a big blade. Ta-da! And of course, I love that this is this is almost actually D size. It's almost the length of my entire body. It's ridiculous but fun. I really had a good time making this. This is great. Well, guys, this concludes blocking out and making the Vampire D sword. Next step will be coating this with rubber. And the rubber I like to use is Poly Latex 60, which I will get into details next time. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you've been catching this and watch this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And you guys can watch me live on Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And also, you guys stream on Thursdays from noon to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And I'll catch you back next time right here on Evil Ted Live.